Welcome. My name is Christine, and today is day 61 of the 77-day video challenge. Over the past, 6 days now, today's going to be part 6 of my story. I am sharing, I'm going more in depth about my story and not just the addiction part, but like the big and leading up into high school and then college and marriage. And so I will start with this. Pretty much my whole life, really starting from the age of 13 and up into my 20s and 30s, I struggled with being very shy, quiet. I'm a natural introvert. But I had low self-esteem. I had pretty much almost no confidence whatsoever. And I never really felt accepted, and I never felt like I truly fit in anywhere. And in 2001, that was the year that I tried my first pain pill. It was tramadol, and it was a prescription that was given to my husband for an injury that he sustained. And one day I was in the bathroom getting ready for work, saw the bottle of pills, and I decided to try one. And I loved the way it made me feel. It gave me energy. It gave me a sense of euphoria, because I finally felt like, I feel amazing on this. I can finally be me. I just felt like I could just really step into myself and like be comfortable in my own skin. And so that was the answer at the time to that problem that I was dealing with. I have explained this in my earlier videos. I did not become addicted right away. I took them every now and then for about 3 years. Typically, it was maybe once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We just took the edge off, and it was fun, and it wasn't hurting anyone. That's how I thought, and so it just wasn't really a big deal. So I thought. So then from 2002 to 2004, I saw a lot of bodybuilders and fitness competitors training, and I was like, that might be something that I would be interested in doing, since I have a dance and gymnastics background. And so in my last video, I kind of shared some pictures and kind of the journey of that, and how I placed in the top 5 and in the world. And so it was a pretty big deal. It was a big accomplishment for me, and it was a lot of fun. Go down and buy a house and really get serious about, working, making money. Stopped competing in fitness, which was my absolute passion. I was in a job, and I'm not going to go into it because I've talked about it in the previous videos, but it was a job that I just was not happy in at all. And my marriage was going through some struggles. We were going through some financial struggles. So we were arguing all the time, my husband and I. And so, I was just in a season where it was just hard. It was difficult. And I also was kind of feeling like I was dealing with some depression, some mild depression. And so at that time, I decided to start taking the prescription pain pills every day, just to help me. 15 pills every single day. And within just a matter of weeks, I knew I had a problem. I wasn't questioning it. I knew I had a problem. And at this point in my life, I wasn't telling anyone, including my own husband, about work every day. However, after a couple of weeks, like I said, I was like, this is crazy. What am I doing? I decided to quit cold turkey, and because of that, I became extremely sick. Just horrible withdrawals. And I I told people I had the flu to get around my lie. And so after about 5, 6, 7 days of just absolute, just being sick and miserable, I decided to get back on the pills. But this time there was no reward. There was no feeling good, no energy, no euphoria, none of that. At this point, my body had built up a tolerance, and so I got back on the pills just to feel normal. It was all just to prevent from being sick. And that, my friend, is a horrible place to be. And that is where I stayed stuck for years. And so I was able to go to work. I was taking care of my husband. I was doing all the things, but I was dying on the inside because shame had a hold, had a grip on me. And I remember thinking back at that time, I was like, I wanted to ask for help, but I was so afraid of what would happen if I had told my husband, my family, someone like me who was a Christian. I knew God, I had a relationship with him. I had competed in fitness. I had won all these awards. I had been teaching dance to little girls, and I had lots of them looking up to me. And so my pride. So now moving into 2005, again, I just felt like I was drifting through life with just no real purpose. Just going to work every day, coming home, watching TV, spending some time with my husband, going to bed, waking up, doing the same thing over. It was just like there was nothing to look forward to. And again, just a lot of struggles in my marriage. And so the end of 2005, I really wanted to get back into competing again. However, I did not have the bandwidth to be able to train for fitness competitions because it really is a full-time job to be able to be a national fitness competitor and train on that level. So I decided, and figure competitions is everything that a fitness competition is, but without the routine and the fun part, in my opinion. And so in fitness competitions, you know, like I was probably in 2006, you know, I mean, wow, like I trained like I had never trained before. I hired Adela Garcia. She had won multiple Fitness Olympia titles. She lived here in Austin, or I think she still does, but I trained with her, got in the best shape of my life. And so in another quarter turn, show your other side, and that's it. That's all there is just that. And I wanted to show you a picture real quick. So this, I was in the best shape of my life. 2006, this is at the NPC National. Shape of my life there. And you guys, right there, I was addicted to pain pills. I was taking 15 pills a day, okay? And I looked like this. Like, typically when people hear the word drug addict, they think, oh, you know, someone's strung out on the streets, and, you know, which that can be the case. But it can also look like this, okay? And this is what I say to a lot of people, like, you know, addiction does not discriminate at all. It can affect anyone and everyone. And I was a national level fitness competitor, placed top 5 in the world, and here I was trying to make a comeback, but instead of fitness, I was doing figure, and I was a full-blown drug addict. Nobody knew except me. And so yeah, I didn't have the routine for me to for me to have any advantage to stand out. So instead of competing against like 40 or 50 girls, and this sport is an extremely subjective sport. Like there's no real standard to judge by. It was always changed. Like the dream was to go to the Olympia and to be like a top level fitness competitor, and you know, get sponsorships and be in magazines and all that. That was the dream. And so I 2006, and I went and I competed at nationals in figure. Didn't even place. Not, I mean, like not even close to top 10 or anything like that. And I remember, so the morning of the competition, I remember I had made an appointment to get an airbrush tan, because you have to get like really dark and have a tan when you go on stage because the lights are so bright. So anyway, I had made this appointment weeks in advance with this woman who said that she showing up to her hotel room and knocking on the door, and someone opened the door, and I see both men and women pretty much naked, all just walking around. You know, like they were either waiting for their airbrush tan, or they had gotten their airbrush tan and they were just waiting for it to dry. And I was like, this is not what I signed up for. You know, I signed up for private. I could see that I was going to have to be taking steroids, and it just was getting away from what my values were and what the sport represented to me, which was, you know, being healthy, being fit, having fun. And it was not your purpose. This is not, you know, this is not the plan I have for you. And I remember hearing that so clearly. And so, so that was the end of a dream for me. And so here I was, you know, struggling with addiction, and also coming to realize the dream that I had has come to an end. And yeah, I was just not enjoying my life. I just didn't like my job. And then I remember I was 29 years old, and it was, yeah, so the end of 2006 going into 2007. So I was 29, and I remember thinking, like, you know, I'm about to be 30, and I probably should make a decision on whether I want kids or not. And so pretty much we had decided we're probably not going to have kids. Looking back, it's like, that's the craziest thing ever. Like, what were we thinking? We were so selfish. And so I knew my husband really didn't want to have kids, but I was kind of on the fence. And so I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to turn 30 in March of 2007. And so when I turn 30, I will decide if I'm really going to do this or not. And so I turned 30 on March 3rd of 2007. And literally, you guys, 3 weeks later, we find out that we're pregnant. And so it was a surprise. You know, looking back now, it was a blessed surprise. It's the best thing that ever happened to us. But this is where I was terrified. Here I was. I found out I was pregnant. We're pregnant. And I am struggling with a full-blown addiction to pain pills. Taking 15 pills a day. My husband doesn't know. Nobody knows. But I do. And I go to the doctor and I find out that it was so scary. That is where I'm going to end today's video, because I don't want to go over, you know, it's already 21 minutes. So in tomorrow's video, or in the next video, I'm going to talk about pregnancy and addiction. It happens, and a lot of women struggle with this. And I remember way back and take drugs while she's pregnant. And so I'm going to be talking about that in tomorrow's video and let you know, if that's something that you're struggling with or you have struggled with that. You're not alone, and there are answers, there are solutions. And let me tell you what, God is a God of grace and mercy. And I'm going to share more about my story and what all that entailed and what that looks like today. So, yeah, thanks for watching this. And if you have questions, and I would love to share more if you're interested. And so, yeah, that's where I'm going to stop.